Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Recovery Support Services Eco Series. So nice to see all of you here today. This session is proudly brought to you by the Center for Substance Use Training and Telementoring, CSTAT, a division of the Be Well Institute here at UT Health San Antonio. My name is Andrea, and I will be helping to facilitate this conversation today. A few quick reminders before we begin. This session is being recorded for later distribution, and you will find it later at our Be Well Texas YouTube page. Please note that anything listed on the chat will not appear on the recordings, so please continue entering your names, email addresses, and organizations on the chat so you can help us keep track of the attendance for today's class. And today we have Kim Govak, very special hub member, presenting for us. After that, we're opening the floor for your questions. And then during the second part of the session, we're going to have someone from our community presenting a case. And we invite all of you to participate and share with us your perspectives, your opinions, and your ideas, especially during this case presentation part. Please keep in mind that these eco sessions are made for you, the learners, and this is the space of all teach, all learn. So the goal here is to promote a conversation that's lively, that's active, that is interesting, and of course, respectful for all of you. So with that, we're going to start with some introductions from the hub. Richard Hamner, welcome to the session.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Richard Hamner with Be Well Texas and hub member in person long-term recovery. Glad you guys are here.
Thank you, Richard. Susie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Susie Walker. I'm a woman in long-term recovery, and I am the executive director of the Recovery Partners of Vermont. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Susie. Jason, do you want to introduce yourself to the group?
Hi, my name is Jason, person in long-term recovery. I'm a recovery coach at the Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Jason. And I think we can start sharing the PowerPoint didactics by Kim. Kim, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever everyone is in this beautiful country of ours. My name is Kim Govak. I am a woman in sustained recovery management. I am on the East Coast in New Jersey, so I bring you greetings from 80-something degree weather out here. And it's really good to be with all of you today. So we have 25 minutes to kind of stay together and for this didactic. And, you know, ethics is such a broad topic. It encapsulates a lot. So I'm really glad that Susie grounded us last month, if you had the opportunity to participate in supervision to protect peer professionals, participants in the peer organization. So Susie really grounded us in what ethical supervision looks like and some of the challenges that come along with it and ways to move through that effectively. For this part, we're going to take a look at it from the peer perspective, ethics from the inside, a peer perspective on boundaries, bias, and supervision. Can we go to the next slide, please? Disclosure. All speakers and all members of the planning committee have no relevant financial relationships with a commercial interest to disclose, and the views and opinions expressed by the participants and speakers attending the ECHO sessions are solely their opinions and do not reflect the official position or policy of UT Health San Antonio. So if I say something that is a little bit off, it is not their fault. That's what that's saying. So framing peer ethics from the inside, ethical peer support is rooted in trust, connection, mutual accountability. Peers bring their lived experience into relationships that require clarity, respect, and personal reflection. Our session is going to explore how ethics appear in daily peer practice, how boundaries protect relationships, and how supervision can become a space for support and openness. Next slide, please. Our learning objectives today are to identify key ethical responsibilities specific to peer recovery roles, explore how boundaries, privilege, and bias influence ethical peer support, describe how supervision supports ethical practice and peer sustainability, and recognize the role of reflection in ethical peer decision-making. Next slide, please. So I think it's always great to have a William White quote in there. He just celebrated a birthday. So I thought this one was pretty interesting for us. Our organizations have tended to define ethics as an individual rather than an institutional issue. And what this means for me is that ethical practice includes how the systems and structures around them support peers. Ethical peer support depends on policies, supervision, the program's culture, and training. And a strong ethical culture supports peers in making informed, values-based decisions. Responsibility belongs to the individuals and the systems that they are part of. So we need to be able to look at ethics from an institutional issue, meaning the system issue and the peers that are working within it. That's basically what this slide is saying. Next slide, please. Ethics and peer practice, so we know that it brings mutual accountability. So for this, ethics are sustained through relationships that are built on trust, respect, and shared responsibility. Supportive supervision looks like providing space for reflection, boundary discussions, and ethical decision making. Ethics also supports how peers hold their space, respect autonomy for themselves and the individuals they're working with, and manage the closeness with care. So how do we manage the close relationship that we have, but also have care in this relationship and managing that? Role clarity is so important. So ethics rely on knowing the scope of peer roles while maintaining those professional boundaries. And here's my favorite is like the cultural and lived experience awareness that comes along with ethics. And for me, that looks like recognizing where our bias and privilege may show up, or the importance of honoring multiple pathways, diverse pathways. So it's not only about coming in contact with different cultural experiences, but also honoring the many, many pathways that are out there that folks are experiencing today. Next slide, please. Okay, ethics and peer roles begins with connection and respect. So we've talked about it being grounded in mutual respect and personal experience, and boundaries protect the role and the relationship, and supervision supports the ethical decision-making, not just the accountability part, but also how can we make ethical decisions? These are great supervisory topics to have with a group and continue to revisit those. But respect and trust grow through lived experience and consistent presence via recovery support service provision. Supervision creates the space for honest conversation and supports the roles of ethics. Next slide. So here are some of our boundaries: holding safe and respectful peer relationships. We see that there are like a couple of different areas of boundaries. There's emotional boundaries, which we can see here, recognizing emotional strain without merging experiences. I want to make sure I'm going to my next slide. Relational, maintaining the professional rapport, not just the friendships. The digital boundaries, textings, DMs, direct messaging, and online presence all need to be clearly established at the beginning of the relationship, what that's going to look like. And financial, avoiding any monetary exchanges or shared obligations. I think that for the financial one, because we often talk about the other three, but the importance of the financial one is upholding the principle of non-exploitation, and meaning that we peers, right, we're not using these relationships for any kind of monetary gain or any other kind of fiscal or material gain. This boundary protects our autonomy and also strengthens trust with the relationship. Next slide. Power, privilege, and ethical awareness. Awareness builds ethical foundations. So we see here positional, peers hold unique roles within systems. Ethical awareness begins by recognizing the peer's unique role within the systems. Trust and relationships shape how decisions are made and how support is received. So that's talking about the relational. Privilege, lived experience is shaped by factors such as access, education, and personal safety. So when we think about privilege, we all go different places with privilege, but it's also about understanding access, having access to resources is part of privilege, what type of educational level we have or not, where that is in the relationship, and also personal safety, right? That also comes along with the privilege piece, like what does my personal safety look like? Like where do I live? How am I navigating my everyday situation? And people that we come in contact with sometimes have different levels of even their own personal safety. So being mindful of that and continuing to reflect on these things and not just assuming when we get into these relationships with folks. Next slide, please. Ethical risk and peer role clarity. Clarity protects peers and the people they serve. Susie talked about this last month. This is really, really crucial and key for peers because role confusion brings with it ethical risk. If it's like if you're driving in a car and you're having things come at you all the time, different things coming at you all the time, the likelihood that you're going to veer is great, right? So it's the same thing with the peer role. If they have their job description and it looks this way, but they keep having other things thrown at them alongside their duties and roles that they have, their duties and responsibilities, then the likelihood that they could veer off in an ethical challenge becomes greater. And we also know that dual relationships blur the support with personal connections. That means that it shifts the focus away from recovery and wellness onto something else. So if there's a dual relationship going on, the likelihood that you're not talking about recovery or your personal wellness, your recovery goals and everything like that, you're having whole other conversations. So that's not a good idea. Documentation may be necessary to uphold accountability and protect everyone involved. So I found it whenever I have to write something down, when I'm working with an individual, I always let them know like kind of what I'm discussing, and because my documentation is mine, but it's their paperwork, right? Ideally, it's their paperwork. And recovery values provide guidance when decisions feel uncertain or complex, challenging. Next slide, please. So Susie did such a great job with supervision from the supervisory perspective. Great job. For us, supervision for peers, it creates an opportunity for reflection and safety. So we talked about, I've already mentioned the feedback, reflection, role clarity, encouraging consistent ethical practice, building connection and reducing isolation. But regular feedback supports ethical consistency in peer work. And I love the piece where it talks about building connection among peers and reduces isolation. For me, that means that in a supervisory relationship, it provides the opportunity for me to be the peers' eyes and ears, right? So if I notice that they're veering off into another lane through role confusion, or if I notice that they're burning the wick at both ends, which peers tend to do, if I notice that I'm receiving an email on the weekend or something like that, it is my responsibility to have developed a rapport and a relationship with the peer that I can share with them. I think that you may need to do you feel like you need to take some time off? Or are you having difficulty managing your schedule? Things like that. Creating a space that the peer feels free to come in and talk about things. And the other part of this that's important is peers absolutely need to know the procedure if they have an ethical concern or challenge that they do not feel that they can speak to their supervisor about. And this is coming from the Division of Behavioral Health in Pennsylvania, that there may be an issue that a peer is having that they can't talk to their supervisor about because it's with their supervisor, right? So has there been an established rule or procedure or policy that the supervisor shares? This is my supervisor. And in Pennsylvania, they even talk about having a co-supervisor, right? clearly defined roles for each supervisor, but there needs to be an outlet for peers to, if they have an issue with their supervisor, because that does happen. So clear protocols strengthen the accountability across the organization and protect everyone involved. So I wanted to make sure that that was clear. Next slide, please. So this is the ethical decision-making model. And this came from our CPRS manual out here, which was adapted from the CCAR one. So the ethical decision-making is simply identifying the ethical concern, gathering the relevant information, consulting the supervision or policy, exploring possible actions, choosing the most ethical response, and documenting and reflecting on the situation. So each of those transpired over meaning as far as the ethical, that's the decision making. The thinking is recognizing what ethical issue is present, understanding the full context, facts, people involved in setting, seeking guidance from the supervisor or reviewing policies and ethical codes, right? So it's a good idea if you think you're having an ethical concern, go visit NADAC or go visit if your organization has ethical codes in place, visit those. But there are also ethics codes online that we can look at too. Consider all reasonable responses and outcomes. Select the option that aligns best with ethics, values, and the peer role concerning the situation. Record your decision-making process. How did you come to the decision that you made? And reflect on what you learned. And I used number 6 twice. So that's it. Record your decision-making process and reflect on what you learned during the process. Next slide, please. These are our reflections on peer ethics. So ethics live in everyday decisions. Ethical peer work means doing your best with honesty, care, and intention. Ethics are practiced in small decisions under pressure and during moments of doubt. And supervision, reflection, and boundary clarity can protect everyone involved. So what I wanted to leave you with is this. Holding true to being an ethical peer is found in the trying, right? It's found in the trying. We're not going to become perfect. As soon as we think we are, we're going to come up against a new ethical concern and it's going to shake us, or it could shake us, and we have to go back through that process. But holding true to be an ethical peer is found in the trying, and becoming competent in peer ethical principles and standards through the trying, right? So as we're trying, we're becoming more competent in dealing with ethical situations and using ethical principles to get through situations. So the first 2 areas in most ethics codes are non-discrimination and responsibility. So we have an ethical duty to not discriminate against individuals and hold on to our responsibility in the relationship. Some codes refer to this as client welfare. That is the most important thing. And practicing ethics means treating others with respect, honoring their different identities and pathways, and just showing up in a responsible manner. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you. And just as a reminder, we're going to be sharing this information with all of you and our thank you email right after this session. So be on the lookout for it. And I want to open the floor right now for your questions for Kim. We have plenty of time. Questions or comments?
So, Susie, it's crickets again. I tell you, ethics is crazy.
It is. And I was about to comment, actually. I so appreciated you talking about documentation in the context of these conversations, because that's another area of trust. That's a word you mentioned quite often, that building that trust in the relationship, if we can just let people know that the documentation, yes, it's for their plan, their goals, and your role is to document certain things. But it reminded me that as a supervisor, it's so important to talk about to help peers know how to bring up the topic of documentation And, early on, people didn't really want to do it. It just didn't feel like a peer thing to be doing. So they just say, oh, this is just some stuff we have to do for a grant. And well, that doesn't feel too good. But if you can say, this is how we help to tell your story, this is how we help to tell the story of recovery supports, and this can help me keep track of what you and I are talking about. And so it can be useful for you because this is your work product that we get to learn from. Thanks.
Thank you, Susie. Anyone, questions, comments? So
Kim, you
Susie and
emphasized
yes,
defining the peer's role and not bombarding them with other responsibilities or tasks outside of their role. Can you give an example of that?
Oh, I absolutely can. So I was a former director of a couple of recovery centers here in South Jersey. And okay, so the peer job description always had these are your duties, these are your responsibilities, working with peers and everything like that. Everything was kind of lined out. And then there's always that little line. How many people have this on your job description? Other duties as needed, right? That is classic. And so what that gives us is the ability to just throw things at you. One of the things that was thrown at peers that was not outlined was transporting individuals to treatment. That was not defined on their job descriptions. It kind of came along later as we got a vehicle, the recovery center was blessed with a vehicle. And so we couldn't just start saying, you're going to start transporting people without, fleshing out what the policies and procedures were going to look like, men with the men, women with the women. If we couldn't do that, it was going to be, two people. If it was a woman, and we only had a man peer, we had to have another woman with them, like things like that. We had to put that into their job description. We couldn't just throw, now you're going to start transporting people 2 hours away as part of your duties without them knowing that they possibly would have to, take somebody to treatment. That was one of the things. It could be, all right, I'm doing my peer role. We also had a food bank. We were blessed to have a food bank at our recovery center. So I'm doing all my peer duties and everything like this, but now you want me to go pick up food bank this week because the regular driver's not there, right? So you potentially picking up, our food bank, like just clearly defining what it is for them to do. And if there's a new job responsibility that they're given, updating their job description with it and giving them a copy of it. Is that a good example for you?
Yes, thank you. Those were extremely helpful. Yes.
any other questions from the group?
I actually have a question, especially Kim, in terms of role boundaries and defined expectations. My program's a little different. I'm contracted by the hospital, so I'm not within their entity or their group. So my experience has been quite a bit of me versus them. And my supervisor is in El Paso and I'm in Lubbock. So how would you suggest that I handle approaching them whenever they are imposing additional duties upon me, like taking patients enrolled in my program for walks, smoke breaks, getting them snacks, because it's difficult to say no to a whole team of nurses when I'm there by myself.
Susie, no. That is thank you, Vanessa. That is,
So
clearly it is so difficult. I can't even imagine because you're first of all, the medical staff, that comes with a level of privilege just in itself. And what I hold true to be authenticity at all times. being who I am at all times, and you as you also like advocating for myself.
Okay.
I'm being stretched outside of my role. Is there any way that I can have my job description updated? Is it going to, am I going to continue to have these same duties? But speaking up for yourself comes with that authenticity of self. And anytime you're feeling uncomfortable, being able to share that. Look, I'm known for putting my hand up. Can I share something honestly? Can I just share something honestly?
Yeah.
You know, I'm known to do that because
I need to do that.
otherwise I'm not being true to myself and I'm being placed in a situation that could potentially cause me harm.
Oh yeah, I'm going nuts. I phone is ringing nonstop, shared my calendar that I would be in a training today, and they are so persistent, they will not stop. And there's 6 of them, 1 of me, and 2 patients.
Wow.
And
Hmm.
and I do not want to burn out because I've had such great experience with the program, but it's like you said, burning the candle at both ends,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no support.
Wow. Susie, you have your hand up.
I did, yes, thank you. It reminded me of when we started having our recovery coaches in the emergency department at the hospital. And we had, boy, every other week meetings, I think, it was new for them and it was another resource for them. And so we often had to say, look, because they valued what they saw happening with the recovery supports. So we said, we're the only ones here who can do this thing. There are other people who can do these other tasks, and we need to stay focused because we're such a limited resource. And this is the reason we're here. So we're going to say no sometimes, and that's because we provide you the best of our time and skills that we can. So it takes
Love
some
that.
ongoing relationship building and using your supervisor to help with conversations. I'm not clear, maybe the others are your supervisor, but in our case, we had our peer recovery supervisors and the director interacting with the hospital. So we could talk about the program as a whole, but the idea of being authentic, staying with our primary purpose, that this is what we're here for. Other people can do these things. We're the only ones who could do this.
Love that. Thank y'all.
You're welcome.
I think this was a great question. And I don't know if anyone in the group has another question. If not,
That was spot on, Vanessa. Thank you.
yes. Yes, definitely. Good question. And if not, in the interest of time, we're going to quickly move to announcements and then we're going to go to our case presentation. And to claim your CEUs today, please answer the post-session survey link provided in the chat. And we'll also send that post-session link in the thank you email. And when you answer, please select yes to the question on CEU credits, and your certificates should be issued in approximately 2 weeks after this session. And please take the time to answer the post-session survey. Even if you do not need CEU credits, please remember that these sessions are made for you, the learners. And when you answer the post-session survey, which does not take too long, it helps us. It helps us to create the content, decide which topics you're interested on, or which type of cases do you want to hear about, or even the way in which we deliver the information. So your feedback is everything for us. We customize and create these sessions for you, the learners. So please, I know we're all busy, but take some time to answer that post-session survey. Next. And the Center for Substance Use Training and Telementoring offers technical assistance for most substance use disorders needs. If you need technical assistance from us, all you have to do is go to that link that we're sharing with you, and there's a TA form. Just complete that form, and someone from the team will get back to you shortly after that. Please use this resource. It's a wonderful resource for you and your organizations, and it's completely free. Next. And the Texas Substance Use Symposium is back. So we'll see you all at the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center. That's March 2 and 3. Please mark it on your calendars. It's going to be very exciting. And also, we are excited to introduce the new Texas Regional Summit in El Paso. Please be on the lookout for more information on that. We'll send emails and we'll update the information on our website. So those very important dates, Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center, March 2 and 3, but also coming soon, the summit in El Paso. So please be on the lookout. More information to come. Next. And all of you know that the Texas Hill Country and the areas around it have been badly affected by the floodings. So we put together a group of resources. You may access these resources by scanning the QR code or accessing the link that we're sharing with you. If you were affected by the floodings at the Texas Hill Country or the Kerrville city or the Kerr County and the surrounding areas. If you or someone you know were affected, please use these resources. But also if you want to help and support these families during these very tough times, please access again these links and these resources, and whatever help that you give is going to be greatly appreciated. Next. And join us next month on Wednesday, August 27, for the next session here at RSS Echo. And I think that we can start sharing our case form. Just as a quick reminder for all, when we discuss our case, no PHI is allowed during the conversation and on the chat. And that means that we're going to discuss the case without presenting any information that could help us potentially identify the person, like names, addresses, and things like that. I know you all know that, but we have to remind you. So Jason, if you could briefly walk us through the main challenges in this case.
Okay. Hello. All right. So the participant is a 44-year-old Hispanic male. He is navigating early recovery from methamphetamine. He is unemployed and seeking stability. Success for him would be financial independence, meaningful employment, and having a consistent support system that helps him reinforce his sobriety. He has faced significant challenges, including homelessness and deep-rooted difficulty trusting others due to past experiences. He struggles with feelings of unfamiliarity or discomfort in stable environments, which could trigger a return to substance use. He resides in a sober living home and is being provided with structure, accountability, and recovery-focused environment. The participant acknowledges the need for help and shows internal motivation to improve his life. There is a desire to secure employment, develop new skills, and continue to grow emotionally. Several steps have been discussed with the participant to support goals. Some of the actions discussed including attending Narcotics Anonymous meetings, rebuilding professional relationships, collecting phone numbers to build relationships outside of meetings and others. The plan is to attend NA meetings, reconnect with peers and professionals, reach out to old friends, explore employment opportunities, and build a network of individuals in recovery. He recently left the sober living home, and I have no way of contacting him. What I was curious about was how can we establish a productive coach-peer relationship with someone who struggles to trust others during their past trauma, due to past trauma? What are effective ways to help a person feel safe and open to stability when they are more familiar with chaos and survival-based living? And how can we expand recovery capital with such limited social resources? What can be done to prevent him from isolating from others?
Oh, thank you, Jason. I think that with this information, we kind of have an idea. So we're opening the floor for suggestions and questions from the group. I have oh, Brett, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Andrea. One thing that just kind of came to mind though about, obviously, in order to help him at all, you have to locate the person, of course, and what I've done in the past is, kind of go to areas where I think that the person might be. I'm sure you probably already, thought about this already, but old hangouts or, if you said he's been homeless before. So, sometimes there's only a certain amount of places to get food, meals, actual meals, served. So oftentimes I would, find missing participants at those agencies who provided meals, and because we got to eat. So that was I found a lot of participants like that over the years, and obviously, methamphetamine in my experience is one of those that really bolsters that not trusting people attitude. And I think more of that comes along with just time. I've also found that if you give people stuff, if it's a cup of coffee or a donut or just a ride, some hygiene items or whatever, sometimes that can help a little bit, along with telling our story, of course. And over time of those little things, kind of going out of your way, so to speak, to help and give them something can really build more of that trust factor. And then, maybe then the suggestions about NA or other fellowships similar to that could, maybe take hold and bring them into the recovery community. And then, of course, groups. I'm sure you guys probably do support groups yourself. I've given rides to people to and from the group, to make them feel like they're important and that, you care about their attendance and things like that. But those are just some suggestions that kind of came to mind.
Thank you.
You, Brett. And Jason, do you think that you would have an idea where this person could be or which places you could try to reach out?
At the moment, no, I do not. We do outreach on a consistent basis here, well, with the local law enforcement. But it's summertime, so a lot of times it's harder to find them in summertime. So
Right. Susie.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason, for sharing this case. It's so familiar, this set of circumstances. So it really reminded me of the importance of establishing the relationship early on, even when the person they have no reason to trust you yet. I was also thinking that people often feel so powerless. They have no control over so many things that are going on in their lives. And so when you can reiterate that this recovery journey is your journey, this recovery, coaching, peer support, what have you, this is for you. And you get to tell us of the things happening in your life. What do you want to prioritize? And then for you to demonstrate follow through and demonstrate when you come to the next session that you found some additional information or resources. And then to explore what really matters for this person or any person. did they once have an employment situation that brought them a lot of satisfaction? Do they need to get training to learn something new? When we can really ignite those passions within a person and give them that sense of purpose and excitement in life, if we can join the journey that they're defining, and if we can reiterate, this is your journey, and I'm truly here to support you, that can really go a long way. But it may take those first half a dozen sessions or so of you demonstrating what you remember from session to session, what you remember about what they're telling to you and how you respond to it. All of that, you have to really demonstrate those things for the person to gain their trust. And then I've seen it happen. But it does take some time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Jason, did he leave in his own accord, or there was
Yeah,
the
yes,
right time for him
he
to?
left on his own accord. Yes.
Aisha, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna, it wasn't really a question, more of a comment. Hi, Jason. Good to see you. I was just gonna mention, and clients that I've had that have struggled with trust, like right off the bat. It's been helpful just to really kind of what Susan said, acknowledge though too that like their feelings are completely understandable and not like normalizing where they're at, and like maybe even bringing in I don't know if peers do psychoeducation on trauma and how it shows up in the body and in our nervous system, and how of course, going through what you've been through, I don't know his specific, history, but if he was on meth for a lengthy period of time, it can be the experience can be traumatic in itself, the people that you end up being around, so just, I think normalizing and very much just being like an equal can be so, even though there is that, but as much as possible, kind of meeting them where they're at and offering true care, showing that you really do care about their well-being goes a long way.
Thank you.
Brad, you wanted to add something? And then I'm going to Vanessa.
Yeah, did you call on me, Andrea? Is that what you said?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. So I just, as I was thinking also, like sometimes when participants have a tough time, of gaining employment, especially if they had, um, shelter issues or whatever those barriers that might come. A lot of times those day labor organizations are easier to, as far as their qualifications to, go to work for. And, I back before I got into recovery, I utilized those myself in maybe similar situations. So, and then sometimes, after proving yourself a good reliable worker, regardless of your, whether you're homeless or whatever, sometimes those companies may end up saying, hey, we have a position open, and you can just come work for us. I've seen that happen a few times anyway. So.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Brad. Vanessa, you wanted to say something?
Yes, actually, responding to the individual having some comfort living in chaos, I can really relate to that. Like, that resonated with me when things were going smoothly. I was seeking out ways to self-sabotage and blow things up. And something that my therapist uses and that I've been utilizing is internal family systems theory, because it would help me identify why my parts would show up like self-sabotage. At one point in time, they served a purpose. In recovery, they're working against me. But to change the perspective so that I don't want them to go away, I don't want to blame them, I want to use their energy in a positive way. And that's really resonated with my patients, and it's helped them view their substance or alcohol use dependency in a new way. So you weren't using and you're not dependent on the substance because of you being a bad person. It's because at some point in time it provided a solution that you needed. But how can we take away that solution and replace it with something non-destructive or not as harmful? So just helping to reframe, I guess, the reason why we would drink or why we would use a substance. That's really helped me establish a strong relationship with my clients. And then, of course, just sharing some of my personal experience to validate. I understand why you are so against recovery right now. Encouraging you to take away your safety net. I know how you feel. And that's how I've been able to get the clients to continue interacting with me even after they've left the program.
Thank you.
Vanessa, what was that theory again called? Internal systems, family, what was that, please?
Internal family systems, it's incredible.
If you can drop it on the chat, that'll be great, so you can share with the group. Other questions or suggestions to our case presenter on how to build that trust? Richard.
I was muted. So I'm sorry, I lost Zoom for a few minutes. This may have been addressed, but
You're
I
back.
noticed, Jason, that he talked about in the case form about developing or re-engaging with professional relationships in business related. And so I was just wondering what that might look like. I thought it was great that he's wanting to re-engage with individuals, but just trying to find that passion if there's some area there that where he has already got some connections in the field of employment and working, if he can kind of re-engage with them again, and maybe that would help get him, from one area, one step of change to another, and just trying to locate that passion. So,
Thank you.
Felicia.
Yeah, I like what Richard just said. And part of what I do when someone comes in and just building that trust is, especially since he is, like he said, is excited to make those connections again, and he wants to do that, wants to go forward. My main thing is, I have a lot of people that come in, they have no way to reach them, they have no phone, so we work on getting them set up with, a lifeline phone, making sure that they have that, because it's going to be hard to get a job if you don't have a phone, if you don't have connection. And then just, going through that, I usually have it just shipped to me when they come in. Hey, here's your phone. Look, I care about you. This is, let's use this, to stay in touch, no matter what, to stay in touch. I want to make sure you're okay. Just making sure I'm, just reminding them that I care. And sorry, I'm looking off this way. My computer screen is actually broken. I had to set up an additional monitor. So
Okay, it's okay. Take your time, no problem.
But yeah, no, I mean, just making sure that they have a way to connect with that job, that person, whoever they're trying to work with, they want to work with. But yeah, making sure that you find a passion, something that they enjoy doing. And then I utilize the workforce center a lot. I've sent many through vocational rehab and having them go back to school and things like that. But again, they've got to have that phone, they got to have a connection so that even if they're not in the program, whether they leave, whether they're discharged, they have a way to connect.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? There's so much to talk about this case. Jason, he mentioned that he was trying to put together like a list of contacts with phone numbers. So that means that in spite of the lack of trust, it looks like he recognizes the need of networking and having contacts numbers and the need for connection. What does he say about that?
So he initially had said he had previous employers that he had history with, that he had consistent history with. I'm assuming this is pre-methamphetamine that he could contact to try and get work. But since that discussion, he left the recovery house, and I haven't been able to talk to him since that discussion. But during our interview, it was about making contact with those people, but also about going to meetings and making sure he had a support structure in that way. So it was definitely about making contact with other people. But from what it seems like, he just went the opposite direction, went back to isolation or back to old patterns. That grooved path is much easier to fall back into.
I just wanted to offer a little bit of hope there in the sense that, many times whatever negative consequences or whatever issues happened in this person's life that brought him into recovery to begin with, hopefully, he doesn't stay out too long and he's able to he knows that path now. So, this any work that you've done, kind of planting seeds and those kinds of things, I would just want to encourage you and just with, and you're in Corpus Christi, I believe, right? So it's like, sounds like a big place, but it's not. I mean, that community is pretty tight. So there's a good chance he's gonna resurface and you'll find him again, and got a good place to start now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Someone else in the group who can share with us similar experience or a similar case, someone they have been helping with methamphetamines, please feel free to unmute yourselves. Kim.
Yeah, I'll go. Thank you. What Vanessa said earlier really resonated with me as well. The whole living in the chaos, right? And then being an individual who's unhoused and living in the chaos and the social isolation that comes along with methamphetamine, right? Anything that's increasing my central nervous system, right? And how my coping mechanisms as a result of that. First of all, Jason, I hope you find him, right? I hope you're able to reconnect with him. One of the things that I found working with individuals who had the amphetamine-based addiction, substance use disorder, is to give them low barrier options into their recovery, right? Suggesting, like, if you are in a recovery center setting, or you know of one, possibly hooking them up with something that they can do online, right? Or something that does not require them to walk into a meeting full of people. Because that right there can, just the notion and the mention of, I gotta go to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, like, can be terrifying. And to walk up to someone, I don't know how they do it out in Texas. We have to download meeting lists now, right? So they don't even have to walk up to somebody to get a meeting list or phone numbers or anything like that, but maybe some low barrier options for this individual that he can explore with maybe one other person, hanging tightly with his recovery coach, which was you, right? Was that you? and establishing that authenticity that we've always all been talking about. Sounds like you validated him a lot and all that, and things like that. And we talked a little bit earlier about, somebody mentioned normalizing that they're uncomfortable, normalizing that you don't have any reason to trust me, but let's work on finding reason to, right? And again, that can come with giving the toiletries, providing the phone and all that kind of good stuff. But you know, that the amphetamine piece comes with a heavy social isolation, and I don't want to people much. So taking a look at those kind of options.
Thank you. I totally resonate with that because for the first 6 months in Narcotics Anonymous, I was quiet on the back row. Like I was there when the meeting started, and I left as soon as it was over. So, you know, it was just I was still isolating in that environment, even so I had never thought to advertise that part of my experience, but thank you.
Oh, good. Oh, we're happy. We're happy that we're sharing those things here. And do we know if he has any connection with relatives?
Uh, it sounded like he didn't have a very good family life.
Okay, I see. Let's see, someone here in the chat. Felicia, do you want to mute and expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of problems with my hear, like being able to hear, and so I just didn't want it to cut out. No, I had a similar situation, but I mean, Austin, I think you said Austin, right? You're in Austin? And
Corpus Christi.
Corpus Christi. Okay.
Corpus Christi.
I'm in a very small town, much smaller than Corpus Christi. So I just had to drive around town like I was starting the third round and was able to find her. Because because she was in the homeless community before she came into the program. She did start in at a sober home. Then she left. So it didn't take long for me to find her, but it took me getting out there and driving around to do it. And I mean, I canceled meetings and canceled other things that I had going on and spent the first half of the day doing that. But there was no one else that was going to look for her. So you know, I knew I had to do it. It was important. I mean, she's doing great these days. Uh, she's got her own place. She's working full time. So I mean, there's definitely hope. Um, it's just boots on the ground. That's what it took for me.
Wow, thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
doing that. Definitely paid if you say that she is doing better now. That's great. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Christine Cazares, do you want to mute and tell us a little bit more?
I'm
Can you hear
actually
me?
the chair of Recovery by the Sea.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I love Corpus Christi. My getaway place, that's Corpus Christi in my background. And I mean, with that event going on for many, many years, if he's familiar with it, he might show up out there. You never know. I mean, for me, that could be like a godsend for you, Jason, because he may show up there.
Let's hope.
You know, and I do know that being down there, there's a lot of homeless people. They like to hang around the beach area because of showers and stuff like that too. And
Oh.
you know, the bay right in the marina, what is it, Chancellor Park or Collier Park, or yeah, where they have all the showers, that would be a good place to start to look. Just a suggestion.
Thank
you.
you, Christine. Thank you, thank you. And Kim, if you want to give us like a little summary or, you know, the suggestions and ideas shared by the group today, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Jason, thank you for such a great case. And again, we all hope that you find him, and hopefully he will show up at Recovery by the Sea and he will see you cheering. And that's what great modeling that is, right? So we heard a lot about continue looking for him in those places where he may possibly be. We talked about the importance of establishing relationship early on because people can feel so powerless. reiterating that the recovery journey is for them, and what do they want to do to prioritize, what do they want to prioritize? What's the most important thing to them to start? And then when they come back, this was Susie. Susie always has she has an acronym for these are the things that you could do, right? But like demonstrate that you've provided some resources based on your initial conversations with this person. That means they're listening. Enjoying the journey that they're defining. That was beautiful. Bringing in someone to possibly educate about trauma, how that's held in the body. We talked a lot about offering true care and authenticity. Felicia said a lot about I'm often the only one that goes looking for these people, so I keep looking for them. That was great. Someone mentioned day laborers for employment if you do connect with him again. And that could lead to full-time employment. We talked about living in the chaos, right? And replacing that chaos with something that's non-destructive, what that means for them, because they do get a payoff from living in the chaos. Sharing some personal experiences to validate their experience. She mentioned the internal family systems theory. Lifeline phones and other necessities can keep somebody coming back, right? So if I know that you're unhoused, a lot of them need socks, a lot of them have particular needs, especially in Texas where it's very, very warm, or it's very hot right now and things are going on, but being able to provide them with some basic necessities, and maybe some low barrier options to recovery, in their recovery pathway that doesn't resonate with so much peopling, and what that could possibly look like for that individual. Recovery by the sea. Let's go.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
And thank you to all. Thank you, Jason, for a great case. And actually, thank you to all the group because this was a good conversation. And we hope that we'll see you next month. Please don't forget to answer that post-session survey. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.